So the Brain Initiative is squarely focused on understanding the brain. And let's not mince words about it. That's the main focus of the Brain Initiative. But we are finding out through the course of the Brain Initiative that even the efforts that are aimed at understanding the brain have direct and rapid application for clinical purposes. So in addition to trying to increase our fundamental understanding about the brain, we've seen improvements in devices for stimulating the brain that have direct applications for improved treatments for Parkinson's disease, for epilepsy, for obsessive compulsive disorder, and for pain.
I want to thank the Congressional Neuroscience Caucus for recognizing the importance of both basic and translational neuroscience research and bringing us all here to celebrate the achievements of the Brain Initiative, now in its 6th year.
And the initial part of the Brain Initiative was stimulated by this really interesting and scholarly report from the Brain 2025 group. And now there's a new group that's been working over the last year to put together a roadmap advising us on how to move forward in the second half of the Brain Initiative, which is really the part of the Brain Initiative that has the most funding due to the 21st Century Cures Act and the increases to the budgets of the Institute for the Brain Initiative. The best is yet to come.
I'm proud to be one of a number of members on a bipartisan letter to the Appropriations Committee, which I'm proud to serve on, encouraging very robust investment for NIH and making sure, therefore, that we have resources to go to this very important brain initiative.
That this is the time that we need to act, and just to impress that upon everyone that's here on Capitol Hill. So thank you for what you're doing. I look forward to talking to you and hearing more about the exciting work that you're doing. Great to be with all of you.
An important component of the success of the Brain Initiative over the past 5 years has been the partnership between multiple federal agencies, private organizations, and academic research institutions. The American Brain Coalition is an advocacy organization of over 100 patient advocacy groups, professional organizations, industry and government agencies, all brain related.
The Society for Neuroscience represents more than 30,000 researchers around the world who study the brain and nervous system. And as a society, we publish the research that our members are doing. We provide them with scientific training and professional development materials, and we help bring them to Capitol Hill to help advocate for their science and tell the public about the important research they're doing to study the most mysterious organ in the human body, the brain.
It's not the C order, it's not the B order, it must be the, wow, pretty gifted here. And a person.
I'm a medical student.
The National Science Foundation is both a founding partner and a leader in funding Brain Initiative research. Dr. Joanne Tornow, who has graciously joined us tonight, is the Assistant Director for the National Science Foundation's Directorate for Biological Sciences. Dr. Tornow has served NSF for nearly 2 decades with a career that has ranged from program management to the highest levels of NSF leadership and strategic development. She was a leader at the Social, Behavioral, and Economic Sciences Directorate at NSF when BRAIN was launched, so she can share numerous perspectives about NSF's involvement in this program. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tornow.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to join you today. I will use both sides of my brain to talk instead of have 2 people. I want to thank the Congressional Neuroscience Caucus for recognizing the importance of both basic and translational neuroscience research and bringing us all here to celebrate the achievements of the Brain Initiative, now in its 6th year. I also want to thank the organizers, the American Brain Coalition, for recognizing the need for sustained support for research into how the nervous system functions, as well as their tireless efforts to advance science for the benefit of humanity, to support scientists and their work, and to share these breakthroughs with the public. As a significant funder of fundamental brain research in the U.S., support for neuroscience research has a long history at NSF. Today, we invest nearly $160 million in the effort to understand the full complexity and function of the brain in action and in context, with a significant portion of that supporting NSF's contribution to the BRAIN initiative. And in recognition of NSF's role in this endeavor in 2017, Congress reauthorized NSF to continue support for the BRAIN initiative in the American Innovation and Competitiveness Act, for which we thank our supporters on the Hill. Despite advances in the field over decades of innovative brain research, our understanding of the brain still is relatively limited due to its remarkable complexity. However, thanks to recently developed revolutionary technologies, many developed with NSF support, neuroscientists across the globe are on the verge of significant advances in fundamental knowledge about the brain and behavior. At NSF, we hope to propel the field toward those advances through 3 signature interdisciplinary programs that together comprise NSF's activities related to the BRAIN initiative and understanding the brain. These include the NeuroNext program, which supports a network of investigators working at the frontiers of neurotechnology to form the basis of a coherent national infrastructure that allows the sharing of tools, resources, data, and knowledge for neuroscience. The Collaborative Research in Computational Neuroscience program, which is a long-running partnership with NIH and several international agencies, which brings together neuroscientists, engineers, computer and information scientists, psychologists, and mathematicians to solve the mysteries of the brain. And lastly, the Integrative Strategies for Understanding Neural and Cognitive Systems, which supports researchers in creative interdisciplinary efforts that yield innovations and advances in cognitive science, neuroscience, neuroengineering, and education research. As with all of our investments, NSF cares about the long-term impacts of neuroscience research funding, investing not only in the foundational questions at the cutting edge of this field, but also supporting impactful practical applications that derive from the brain-inspired concepts and designs. The transformative advances in neuroscience stemming from foundational knowledge acquired in these activities are poised to have profound scientific and societal impacts, from advancing treatments for nervous system disorders or traumatic brain injury to generating brain-inspired smart technologies. For example, at the heart of Google DeepMind, and essentially all deep learning methods used today in pursuit of general-purpose artificial intelligence technology, is a backpropagation algorithm to train neural networks developed with NSF support by Ronald Williams and his research team back in 1986. Modern brain-computer interface technologies used in neuroprosthetics can nearly all be traced back to NSF-funded research, piecing together the fundamentals of motor coding performed in Georgopoulos' lab in the late 1980s and Nikolaidis' lab in the late 1990s. More recently, by transforming intact tissues into a fully assembled but optically transparent and macromolecule permeable form, the Clarity method developed by Daiseroth's lab in 2013 has revolutionized our ability to investigate the structural and molecular basis of physiological function and disease, particularly in the brain. Innovations like these are emblematic of why NSF values long-term support for science and technology development. From the new StarMap technology for intact tissue single-cell transcriptome mapping to a groundbreaking paper published just last month revealing how neurons work together to encode smells, NSF-funded discoveries continue to lay the groundwork for truly transformative neuroscience research. Through coordinated, collaborative, interdisciplinary, interagency approaches to scientific inquiry and an extended time horizon for the translation of knowledge at the scientific frontiers, such discoveries have had and will continue to have a significant, tangible impact on our everyday lives. And for that, we thank all of you who are at the forefront of conducting that very exciting research. So with that, where are you? I'll hand it back to you. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Prior to taking on the role as director, Dr. Gordon conducted research focusing on the analysis of neural activity in mice carrying mutations of relevance to psychiatric disease. Dr. Korshus first joined NINDS in 2007 as deputy director under Dr. Story Landis. As a neurologist, he has developed measles in patients that reflect the underlying biology of their neurological conditions and is keenly aware of the important tools that are needed in both research and clinical care. I'd like you to welcome Drs. Gordon and Korshus.
The BRAIN Initiative was first announced in 2013, over 6 years ago, with the audacious goal of nothing less than solving the mysteries of the human brain by focusing on trying to understand how we can see the activities that go on in the neural circuits, which is responsible for all our human behaviors. And so it's the most exciting project that I've seen since I've been at NIH. And he's been at NIH longer than I have, so. To figure out, though, how to do this, the NIH convened a team of external scientific experts who held a sequence of public workshops around the country and got input from investigators in all walks of neuroscience life. They created the BRAIN 2025 report in 2014, and that became the strategic plan for the initiative at that time. And the first NIH projects were awarded soon after, in October 2014, with $46 million, and we greatly appreciate the bipartisan support from Congress over the years that has swelled the budget to a cumulative total of nearly $1 billion now. And that has resulted in tremendously exciting new tools, technologies, and neuroscience. These investigators come not only from neuroscience and other biological disciplines, but they come from physics, they come from chemistry, from computer science, from engineering.
They're building devices, they're developing novel ways of analyzing, of storing data, of analyzing that data, and of really being able to bring the power of these various disciplines to understanding the brain. This has catalyzed the development of really remarkable progress of new devices, of new ways to image, to monitor, to stimulate cells in the brain, and we think over the coming years they're going to really launch a revolution in our ability to understand how the brain works.
Right, so since its inception, a lot of the people in this room have worked really hard at the bench. Some really tremendous advances have been made in many different areas. One of the most exciting has been the ability to do high throughput screening through large amounts of brain tissue to isolate single cells and try and develop a cell census of the brain. And that's a really big project that's been going on now for a number of years in the mouse, and we're hoping to move it, and because we have projects in the planning stages to move it into the non-human primate and to the human. In addition, a lot of the people in this room have developed the technologies and been able to study thousands of neurons firing away in particular activities. This is the kind of thing that people dreamt about when the BRAIN Initiative started, when people like myself would study a single neuron with a single electrode and then go to the next neuron with the next electrode. But now you can actually see thousands of neurons at a time engaging in network behavior that gives us the ability to do what we can do. Thanks.
So the BRAIN Initiative is squarely focused on understanding the brain. And let's not mince words about it. That's the main focus of the BRAIN Initiative. But we are finding out through the course of the BRAIN Initiative that even the efforts that are aimed at understanding the brain have direct and rapid application for clinical purposes. So in addition to trying to increase our fundamental understanding about the brain, we've seen improvements in devices for stimulating the brain that have direct applications for improved treatments for Parkinson's disease, for epilepsy, for obsessive compulsive disorder, and for pain. We've had additional unanticipated benefits of the advances we've made through the BRAIN Initiative. For example, the recognition of how the Zika virus enters the developing brain and what it does to neurons has helped improve our understanding of this infectious disease that has emerged even during the period of the BRAIN Initiative. We've also seen enhancements in non-invasive imaging and targeted modulation of brain activity that has already been put to use to try to enhance our understanding of disease processes in mental and neurologic disorders.
So hard to imagine the progress has been made already, but also hard to imagine that time has been ticking away, and we're now entering and planning for the second half of the BRAIN Initiative. So as Josh mentioned, the initial part of the BRAIN Initiative was stimulated by this really interesting and scholarly report from the BRAIN 2025 group, and now there's a new group that's been working over the last year to put together a roadmap advising us on how to move forward in the second half of the BRAIN Initiative, which is really the part of the BRAIN Initiative that has the most funding due to the 21st Century Cures Act and the increases to the budgets of the Institute for the BRAIN Initiative. The best is yet to come.
So this working group had continued the tradition that was set by the first working group. They had a number of workshops around the United States to solicit input from the community. They've had town halls at major scientific meetings, and they've put out requests for information from the community through the NIH. In addition to the working group that's focused on the science, there's a second working group that's focused on the neuroethics issues related to the BRAIN Initiative, aiming to incorporate this feedback around the neuroethics of these new technologies and these new approaches to studying the brain to make sure that it's integrated throughout the plan, the strategic plan, which they're in the process of completing a revision on.
Right, and so many of the people who are working on this, thank you, you're in this room, we know how hard you've been working. Your work's not done yet, though, because the draft report comes out next week, and then there'll be time for a request for information from people in the community to react to the report and give further input. But we really thank everybody for taking part in this really important effort to make sure that the second half is maybe 4 or 5 times better than the first half.
So with that, that's our version of the past, present, and future of the BRAIN Initiative. From the NIH perspective, before we close, we really want to thank the committee staff and our nonprofit partners who helped organize the event, and hope that those of you who are here to talk with the brain investigators that use the bulk of the time to go and hear directly from them. We've asked them to all be prepared with their elevator pitches and descriptions of the exciting work that they're doing. So please participate actively. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
I want to thank all of you for being part of this exciting path-breaking work that we're doing here in the United States and at NIH, which we're always proud has its home in the state of Maryland, and I'm proud to represent Maryland in the Senate along with Ben Cardin. So I know he's not here. Please give Dr. Collins my very best. I appreciate his leadership over a number of administrations and think he's been a great steward. I do want to thank some of the folks you heard from and are really leading so much of our efforts, NIH, Dr. Koroshetz, as well as Dr. Gordon and Dr. Torno from the National Science Foundation.
We are deeply honored that Senator Chris Van Hollen has joined us this evening. Now a senator from Maryland, Senator Van Hollen has long been a champion for biomedical research and has worked to make biomedical research a priority in Congress since his time as the representative of Maryland's 8th District. He serves on the Senate Appropriations Committee and is a member of the Labor, Health and Human Services and Education Subcommittee, which provided significant increases in funding for the NIH in recent years. Please join me in thanking him for his work on this committee and to welcome him to say a few remarks.
Well, thank you, Katie. And I know you were about to break, so I'm glad I was able to get here. And I want to thank all of you. Katie, thank you. Thank all the folks who are part of the American Brain Coalition. And I want to thank all of you for being part of this exciting path-breaking work that we're doing here in the United States and at NIH, which we're always proud has its home in the state of Maryland, and I'm proud to represent Maryland in the Senate along with Ben Cardin. So I know he's not here. Please give Dr. Collins my very best. I appreciate his leadership over a number of administrations and think he's been a great steward. I do want to thank some of the folks you heard from and are really leading so much of our efforts, NIH, Dr. Koroshet, as well as Dr. Gordon and Dr. Torno from the National Science Foundation. Also, Dr. Knold, is he here from University of Maryland? All right, University of Maryland's in the house. Not to be too parochial, but it's good to have you, and thank you to all the other folks who've been participating in this. And look, I'm talking to a group of people who follows this issue closely, including a lot of scientists. But I do think it's worth emphasizing how important this work in the brain research is. And not only because if we look ahead in the century, brain diseases are going to be some of the most prevalent diseases and certainly the most costly diseases. And so both because we want to make sure that we provide treatments and ultimately, hopefully, cures to lots of these diseases, and at the same time save a lot of money when it comes to healthcare costs, what you're doing is important in so many, many different ways. I'm always fascinated whenever I have a chance to talk to scientists about the brain and the literally 100 trillions of connections in our brains, remarkable brains. And so we need to make sure that we're putting the investment that is necessary to understand the incredible qualities of the brain and how it can finding solutions to things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and addiction can really both help our citizens and people around the world and save money. So I want to thank the Brain Initiative for the work you've already done. My understanding is that over 550 principal investigators have stepped up to answer the call already to help revolutionize the understanding of the brain. I'm proud to be one of a number of members on a bipartisan letter to the Appropriations Committee, which I'm proud to serve on, encouraging very robust investment for NIH and making sure, therefore, that we have resources to go to this very important brain initiative. And I think you all know that Congress, really on a bipartisan basis, has been providing robust support for NIH overall and for the Brain Initiative. So I really want to come by and thank all of you for what you're doing, and please make sure that you talk to all our colleagues over the course of the coming weeks and months, because Congress is going to be making some important budget decisions and investment decisions that will impact all of us and the quality of life going forward for many, many years to come. So thank you, and I look forward to continuing to work together. Take care.
Representing the people of Washington's 5th Congressional District. She is no stranger to the great neuroscience work being done in the Northwest region of the United States and across the country. Thank you for joining us, Congresswoman McMorris-Rodgers. Thank you. Great.
Thank you all for being here. I'm just thrilled to see people all over the country. I'm proud to co-chair the Neuroscience Caucus, and used to serve with Senator Van Hollen when he was in the House, but we worked together on the Down Syndrome Caucus and Disabilities Caucus, but I co-chair the Neuroscience Caucus, and he's been a great friend and leader on all of these issues, so good to see you. So I co-chair the Neuroscience Caucus with Representative, I'm in the House. Even on my, it's been a crazy day for all of us. Representative Earl Blumenauer, and our goal is to really just further highlight the amazing work that all of you are doing and the importance of research. It doesn't seem to matter which group I meet with right now, whether it's Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or just across the board, we are on the verge of some amazing breakthroughs. And it is my hope, my goal that we can continue to lead the world in those breakthroughs. I'm grateful for the leadership of Dr. Francis Collins at NIH. Clearly, just extraordinary leadership that he is bringing. I am committed to continuing to do everything I can to increase the research dollars at NIH. I believe this is a time that we should be just going all in So as much as we can do, the better. We've done, you know, last Congress we've been doing some step increases in NIH funding to $3 billion each Congress, or year, which is significant. Like all of you, though, I really would like to see, let's just go double the funding for NIH. But it's really a tribute to the work that you are doing. I was 35 and single when I was elected to Congress. This is not what I dreamed that I would be doing. Got married, had 3 kids. I have a son that has Down syndrome, and he really has been the one that has brought me along on this journey. And like so many, and we know what you can cite these numbers better than I can, as far as the number of people who will be diagnosed with something in the brain. I think it's 1 out of 3. But when Cole was born, now that was new to me. I didn't know what a duplicate 21st chromosome was and what it meant. And I quickly became grateful to those who walked the path before me. And the work that has been done, those who came to Capitol Hill, who knocked on doors and raised awareness. And our son Cole is having more educational opportunities. He has a better health. He has better life expectancy because of the work that's been done in the past. We clearly stand on the shoulders of those who have gone before us. But there's more that needs to be done across the board. And that's where, you know, I know more about what's going on in the 21st chromosome. And it also is related, you know, there's a connection to Alzheimer's now. That those that with Down syndrome are living longer, they're developing Alzheimer's. Again, it's the mysteries of the 21st chromosome. Let's explore that, and let's make sure that we're the ones leading. America has a great history of leading in breakthroughs, leading in the new technologies, the new innovations. And I just appreciate all of you being here to help educate the members and their staff about what's possible, that this is the time that we need to act, and just to impress that upon everyone that's here on Capitol Hill. So thank you for what you're doing. I look forward to talking to you and hearing more about the exciting work that you're doing. Great to be with all of you.